back to The Runner Soul, the podcast where running meets science, stride by stride. I'm Sharon, your podiatrist and fellow runner. In the first episode, we went back to the very beginning and we talked about why humans run, how our feet have evolved to be these amazing shock absorbers and powerhouses, and how understanding your feet can literally change your running life. Today we're going to talk about the part of running nobody wants to think about. Not until it happens to them. And that's those dreaded injuries.
Ouch!
If you run long enough, chances are you've had some pain, a little twinge in your heel, an ache in your ankle, your shins, or maybe a little voice in your head just saying, just push through. This episode is called Step Wrong, Hurt Long. Because when something is slightly off and you repeat it over and over, your body will eventually send you the bill. So here's what we're covering today. The 5 most common running injuries, why they happen, early red flags you can catch before they get serious, and how to keep running smarter, not sidelined. So, lace up. This is going to be a really good one. So, let's talk about why runners get hurt.
Ouch!
But before we jump into specifics, let me paint you a picture. Imagine a slightly misaligned wheel on a car. It still drives fine for a while, but every rotation it wears down just a little by little on the tire in the same place. Well, running injuries kind of work in the same way. It's usually not just one big event. It's like a tiny imbalance repeated 10,000 times a week. And that's why about 80% of running injuries are overuse injuries. So when somebody tells me,
Sharon, I don't know what happened. It just started hurting out of nowhere.
I often ask these questions. A. Did you recently change your shoes? B. Have you increased your mileage? C. Have you been switching surfaces? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. So that means most injuries are predictable. And more importantly, if they're predictable, then that means they're preventable. Yay! So let's run through the 5 biggest offenders I see in clinic every week. Okay, so this is injury deep dive, the big 5. So the first one has to be plantar fasciitis. Let's start with the king of foot pain. If you've ever hopped out of bed in the morning and thought,
whoa, why does my heel feel like I'm stepping on a Lego?
That's plantar fasciitis. The plantar fascia is this strong band of tissue under your foot. It's supposed to stretch and support you, but when it gets irritated, it becomes inflamed, and then it feels like a stabbing pain in the heel. So why? What causes this? Well, the main culprits are big spikes in your mileage, standing for hours on hard floors, and old or flat shoes. So a prevention tip is mix some calf stretches, strengthen those foot muscles, and don't let your shoes get to the pancake stage. The next one we have is Achilles tendinopathy. That's second on our list. The Achilles tendon is the body's thickest tendon connecting your calf to your heel. When this gets angry, you'll feel pain or stiffness in the back of your heel, often worse when you first start running. Hill training, sprinting, or just tight calves are the usual suspects. And here's a fun fact. This tendon can handle up to 10 times your body weight when running. That's like lifting a car every stride. No wonder it complains if we don't look after it. Next on the list is the shin splints. Most runners shrug this off as just sore shins, but really it's bone stress. Picture a paperclip bent back and forth until it weakens. Well, that's what happens when you ramp up mileage too quickly. And an early sign to this is like a dull ache along the inside of your shin that eases mid-run but comes back after. Then the next on the list is the stress fractures. Now, stress fractures, these are the silent creepers. You may think, I can handle it, until you can't. It feels like a deep throbbing pain. It just doesn't go away. It's common in the metatarsals, those long bones in your forefoot. And David Beckham has famously broke one of his in the past. And here's the scary part. Early on, X-rays may not even show up what's actually happening. You really need to have an MRI or a bone scan. So if you've ever had pain that worsens when you run and doesn't improve after a few days off, stop and get it checked. So next on the list, we have metatarsalgia. So it sounds fancy, but it's just a fancy word that means pain in the ball of your foot. It can feel like you're stepping on a marble. The common culprits, high arches, tight calves, or shoes with thin, hard forefoot cushioning. Luckily, this one is often easy to fix once you spot it. Think better shoes, met pads, and calf mobility work. So let's talk about the myths versus the facts. Of course, you'll hear lots of things. You must do this, you can't do this. You know, this does this to your body when you're running. So let's pause here for a myth-busting break. So myth 1. You'll hear people say,
Running ruins your knees.
well, in fact, research shows recreational runners usually have less knee arthritis than non-runners. So we can bust that one. And the second myth you'll hear all the time is,
if I stop running, I lose all my progress.
well, the fact is, strategic resting helps your body come back stronger. And then the third most common myth is,
Pain is weakness leaving the body.
well, the truth is pain in your body is waving a red flag. It's saying, listen, I'm not happy. Something's happening here that's not right. Okay, let's talk about some red flags and when to seek help. Now, the earlier you act, the quicker you'll recover. So here are 5 warning signs that shouldn't be ignored. So the first one is pain that lingers or gets worse with every run. The second one is pain that changes your gait or running form. Third is morning stiffness or pain with the first steps. The fourth is swelling or visible bruising. And 5 is pain that just doesn't ease in 48 to 72 hours of rest. If you can check one or more of these, it's probably time to see somebody and get assessed. So before we wrap up on episode 2, let's answer a quick listener question I got this week. So this listener says, Sharon,
How do I know if I'm just sore from training or if I'm injured?
that's a great question. Muscle soreness usually peaks around the 24 to 48 hours after a hard workout, and then it kind of fades away. So injury pain often stays, worsens with activity, and changes how you move. So if you find that your gait is changing, you feel that you're trying to compensate for, one pain in the body you're trying to avoid, and it's making you like walk differently, that's always a red flag. So injury pain often stays, worsens with activity, and changes how you move. So keep that in mind. And if in doubt, get it checked. So let's talk about prevention and action steps. Here's a quick checklist for every runner. First thing, follow the 10% rule for mileage. Second, replace your shoes on time. Make sure your shoes are less than 1 year old. Strengthen your calf muscles, your hips, and keep your core strong. Cross-train to give your joints a break. And don't be afraid to ask for help early. So, in a clinic, a podiatrist will look at the whole picture. They'll look at your form, your shoes, your gait, your lifestyle, not just your sore spots. We like to fix the cause instead of just, putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms. And usually the pain will go away for good. So thanks for joining me on episode 2 of The Runner's Soul. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found some interesting tips to help you with your running. So next time we'll talk about running shoes. Which ones are worth it? Which ones are all hype? And whether you really need orthotics. If this episode helped you, share it with a friend and leave us a review. Until next time, run smart and recover smarter.